Mrs. Beniti, the narrative, changing the narrative from the states. Because, you know, most times when we talk federal. Now it's about the states. How he's talked about intellectuals coming together. Is it just about intellectuals coming together, I mean, in the different states now to say, this is our state, let's move it to where it ought to be? What needs to be done?
I mean, the points he has made is a brilliant point, excellent point. But the reality is that most of our elites or intellectuals do not understand leadership. Leadership is a peculiar skill. Leadership is about finding solutions. Leadership is about production value.
But we lead in our homes. How can't we translate?
Let's not talk about the homes that you're leading.
Okay.
I'm going for a conference next month talking about homes. There's no leadership even in the homes. That's why you have the youth restiveness. It's a multiplying effect because homes are the units. But the fact that he made a very, very fundamental fact that state government has to begin to gather the intellectuals, number one, and let the discussion start. But the discussion is in what direction? Talking about every state is viable. And I want to correct something about Lagos State, that as the elite class of a nation, Lagos State, we agree, is heavily invested by X, Y, and Z. But it was also good management. You can't deny good management of getting your taxes at X time and ensuring that everybody is paying at due time. That is not a skill. For you to deny that, it's also not fair to Lagos State. We agree that Lagos is heavily invested, but remember that this same Lagos State sends her VAT to the federal government that other centers are eating from. Is it that other centers cannot generate even a 10% of Lagos State? Let us say, start with a 5% of Lagos State. We're not asking everybody to be Lagos State. But what is Lagos State doing or has done or has that cannot be multiplied upon the states? For example, we talk about Singapore as an institute. And people say, no, Singapore is a city-state. It's a small country. How can you compare Singapore to us? Because the former president said, some prime minister, late Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew said, he said government is entrepreneurship at a large scale. And that's why his idea of talking about a CEO mindset, which is one of the things that Akwa Ibom now has, a very strong mindset of a CEO who runs the government like a business. So Lee Kuan Yew said something that if you don't run government anyhow, it has to be organized. It has to be put together. But on the final thought, the fact is that if a one-state Singapore happened, a Nigeria can do a 36 Singapore. Each state becoming it. We can't have governors in certain states who, like he said, wakes up and there's no vision. Each state must carve her own vision. Where are you going in the next 10 years? In the next 15 years? Even if you're not going to be governor, how do you push your state in a trajectory?
Lay the foundation.
And create the narrative that will create the intellectual that will come upon the table for discussion. Lagos had to do that. You know who is managing Lagos now. In the past how many years, they had consultants. You saw what has happened in Lekki. The roundabouts went. We're not just talking about Lagos is making money because Lagos. No, that is whining. There is also systems that has been put in place that state government should say, okay, if Lagos can do X, can we do 10% of Lagos? And how do we get Lagos mindset into our state for production instead of just selling kobo and expect that IGR will come from a magic zone? It's not happening.
And then we go to Abuja to collect money at the end of every month.
It's not done anywhere in the world.
Yes, we have some reactions coming from viewers. This one is from Binga Shonuyi. I agree totally with the guest in the studio. Until each state stops going to Abuja for handout, the government would not think outside the box.
Okay, this is from Regina Mundi, who says, Benue is a food basket of the nation, but it's surprising that the state is solely a civil service state with all the agricultural resources and manpower they have. Talk about 10 species of mangoes, oranges, yam, etc., and no single food producing industry to complement these resources that are wasting away. Okay, that's Pt.5.
Ali Abdullahi from Gombe says states need to be more educated on IGR generation strategy to survive. Here, Ali.
And finally,
I'll drink to that.
And from the Twitter page, those are the mails from Twitter. We have, I'll just take one here. Robert Anande says the concurrent lease and the exclusive lease has to be pruned to give states more powers, especially over resources within their domain. All right, thank you so much. All those comments coming in. Thank you. We've been speaking with Juliet Beniti, a member, Institute of National Transformation, Odili Menwegbara, financial development economist, Ezekiel Nyaitok, social commentator, and DG of the Nigeria First Project. Thank you all for sharing your thoughts with us. Sunrise will be back in a moment. Please don't go away.